TV, media, everything that happened in the past. This was our investigation, and this is what we would have put on had there been a hearing. So this was to have the work that we had all done, and we had all participated in, shown in such a way that Fran and Pete had produced and brought to film it's there now, and everyone can see what we worked on for so long.
Johnny, you've been following this case for a dozen years or so. I'd love to hear your reactions to watching it on film, watching the full story.
Well, the first time that I saw this film, it was, I think the first thing that popped into my head was finally, just in terms of the truth, or at least a closer step to the truth, and sort of the main truth being that it is very, very clear. These are three innocent men. Every one of us has maintained, since the very beginning, and to see Damien and the boys one step closer to what needs to be, which is the clearing of their names and total exoneration, complete exoneration of these hideous crimes. So this is another step forward in that, and I'm very pleased to be a tiny little speck in this maelstrom.
Before the film, as everyone was coming in, there was a lot of enthusiasm to see everyone here tonight, and I had made a juxtaposition in my head of footage I've seen of you 18 years ago, walking on a perp walk into the courthouse, and people screaming out, much worse things than they were screaming on the red carpet today. It was a strange juxtaposition. But so it's so happy for everyone to see you here. But your story isn't over. The verdict that you had to accept is a compromised one, and I wonder if you and Lorri can talk about what the state of that verdict is today and where you go from here.
Really, the only way this case is going to be reopened by the state of Arkansas is if they don't have any other choice. And that's really what we're hoping this movie brings about, is just to keep pressure on the state, keep this case in the spotlight, so that really what it comes down to is the only thing they care about are political careers. So it has to reach a point where they see they have more to gain by reopening this case, doing what's right, and putting the right people in prison than right now, which is sweeping it under the rug, hiding it, pretending it's over. And that's all we hope for in this movie, is just to keep from forgetting. It's not over for us. Even coming here today, the first time we asked, I was denied into Canada. They said, no, you can't come in because in the U.S. you're still considered a criminal. So we had to go through hell. We went through absolute hell for the past week, appealing that decision and trying to get letters of recommendation and all sorts of stuff just to be able to come into the country. So this case still reaches into every single part of our lives on a daily basis, and that's not going to be over for us until we're completely exonerated.
So if our film touched you today, please spread the word, because if we can hear your voices and people speak out, then it is going to bring pressure down on the state of Arkansas and hopefully affect the legal system in the United States from now on.
You made a point when we were talking earlier today about the state that Damien and Jesse and Jason are all in coming out of court, coming out of this verdict. In a different scenario, if they had, if true justice would have been done, there would have been compensation. And can you talk about, from your perspective, having been an observer of this compromised justice, how you see it?
Yeah, I mean, if you notice when I interviewed Scott Ellington, he made it very clear that he hadn't gone through reams and reams of paper, but he had spent a lot of time thinking about the dollars, and he had 60 million in his head because that's how much it would have cost the state of Arkansas had they actually exonerated these guys properly. And I just think the fact that Damien was initially denied, and we are so grateful that you guys helped and that we're all here together today, but Damien has very few ways to earn a living at this point. He's given up, almost 20 years of his life, and he only has his story and his words and his book, and he needs to be able to travel around the world if he has to. He needs to be free of these charges. So it is actually an election cycle, and Damien was just mentioning a political cycle. Well, we're actually entering the election cycle in Arkansas, and it's actually been 2 years since Judge Burnett became a senator, and he's up for re-election in November. So we are, and Scott Ellington, since this case, has decided that he wanted to run for Congress immediately. And he is now running for Congress, and so we are going to start screening the film starting next week for the next 2 months. And we should mention actually that these are free screenings, so.
Johnny, a lot of people's response to this case, whenever they came aware of it, was that a feeling that could have been me, that anyone who ever felt like an outsider in their community. I wonder if that resonated for you.
Clearly. No, of course. I mean, it's exactly as Henry Rollins says in the film. Anyone who was on that sort of outside, who would gone a different path or just felt different than others. And the fact remains, it could have been any one of us in this room. If that guy with the power decided to point the finger at you, and more fingers continue to point at you, you're done for. And that's essentially what happened. They just, almost blindly just closed their eyes and pointed their fingers and happened to be in Damien's direction. That's why I think, with something like this, as absurd as everything that has, surrounded first such an abominable crime, then such a grave injustice, it would be easy for any one of us to sit there and watch a documentary, let's say this documentary, watch the thing and go, oh my God, isn't that horrible? And then, you reach for a French fry. But I think the thing to do is when you recognize the truth, especially in something as intense and as grave as this step is to move forward, write letters, make phone calls, support these three innocent men, and let's work together for total exoneration for these fellows.